Good morning, guys. It's Monday. We made it. The beginning of another work week. And here come all the messages. Man. I was thinking about our talk about looking at life more like a game. And then I was just kind of dwelling on that, because I think about it a lot. But then I was also thinking about, I was watching my daughter for a while, and just her progression with her art and how it went from these very basic ideas to these pretty complicated and really jazzy looking animals, cats and people. And just the process of creativity itself and why you do it and what draws you to it and then what pulls you away. I've seen her progress in such a way that, now when I there was a point a couple months ago where I hadn't seen a lot of her artwork in a while, and then I saw what she was doing and I couldn't believe it. And I was like, wow, she's so good, And now she's making money from the work she does. She's got her own Cash App, and she's doing work for people, and they're paying her. I'm so proud of her. I really am. The stickers that she's produced, the stories she's written, and the art that she's getting commissioned for. She's 13 years old. That's my daughter. Melody. She has turned out to be the light of my life. And I mean, when I say light, I mean it in every sense of the word. My lamppost, my guide, my helper. What a surprise she's turned out to be. Loyal, loving. I don't know enough words to describe what it feels like to be lucky enough to guide her through life. And when I think about a future for her where I'm not in it anymore, it sometimes scares me. And part of the reason why I make these videos is so that when I'm gone, there's a record in her times of doubt, in her times of trouble, or uncertainty, or whatever you want to call it, that finds us in life, and I'm not here to help her. She can come back to these videos, and it'd be a lot better to have a part of me still here versus nothing. I only wish that I could be around to watch her watch them. And who knows, maybe I will. In some way that we just don't understand. But I'm just watching her progression, and it's one of collaboration. At first, the drawings were something that she did on her own to satisfy something. Drawn to draw, to create. And then at some point, that becomes not enough. She wants to collaborate with other people. So cool. I better hang on a second. I gotta make sure the lights don't turn off. I should do this before I start the videos, right? But anyway, I start thinking to myself, Us humans, we're so predictable in a lot of ways. And the things that we create oftentimes create this pattern. And you know what the pattern I see is we're always trying to reinvent ourselves. We're trying to create life. We're trying to create purpose, meaningful experiences. And I think that that's an interesting dynamic that's unique to the human condition. Why do we play games? Why do we draw when we're young? What is it that brings us to the drawing table? What's the catalyst for creation, being creative? When I think about that, I think, well, because you're not engaged with something already and you're bored. So you want to do something that takes you away from your boredom. And so the act of creation, being creative, cancels out boredom. And you have a more satisfying experience for that time of day or that day or whatever. When children love to create, they just create all the time. And then you know what happens. You get involved with life and slowly you start to forget how to create. And now you turn into a worker. And you work, you rest, and you eat. And maybe you get a little love out of it too. And everything starts to feel like, well, it doesn't feel like when you were drawing. When I make these videos, the reason why I make them is because I'm trying to paint a picture of myself, for myself and for you, and for my daughter, and anyone that is looking for more out of life. I'm trying to paint a picture. I'm trying to set the table for a discussion that offers ideas and concepts that can bring more joy into our life, so that we feel like we're drawing more, so that we feel like we did when we were drawing, so we're feeling more creative. And I think that in this game of life, it might be less that we have to pretend, and maybe a little bit more that we are just in the process of remembering that you are always creating. But sometimes you don't like the crayons that you have to draw with. It's all you got, and you're like, well, I can't paint this picture the way I really want to because I don't have the right tools. You don't like the ones that you got. It makes the act of drawing not what you want. The crayons that you want and the pens that you want are expensive. So expensive, you're just like, you can't justify having those tools because they cost 20 times what a crayon costs. But boy, the finished product you get when you use them, that's what you think, right? Have you seen those videos where one of the greatest guitar players in the world goes into a music store and grabs a $150 guitar and makes it sound like you can't believe? But he is also at the top of his game, and so he sponsors he works with guitar makers, and they make signature series for that guitar player that costs thousands of dollars, a $5,000 guitar. And this guy makes a $150 guitar sound just like that $5,000 guitar, because it's not the instrument. It's the artist. It's you. It's me. If you could believe, you could grab a chunk of I don't know, a piece of bark that fell off a tree, grab an empty piece of paper, and make a masterpiece. You could do it. People are doing it. They're creating masterpieces out of stuff just lying around. And you can't believe it when you see it. All this stuff laying around in plain sight. But you discount it. You think it's junk. You think it's debris. But somebody else sees it and says, man, that's gold. I'm going to take that and I'm going to create a masterpiece. You guys, when we think about awakening, the process of awakening, what does it mean? It means you're opening your eyes. It means you're opening your mind to new realities, to new possibilities. Not new conceptually, they're just new to you because you just weren't looking. Well, I haven't heard from those guys in a long time. I can't wait to read that one. Okay. Thank you. You guys, when we think about life, the game of life, that last video I made, let's take it a little further, shall we? Why would you want to play a game of life? Why would you want to play this game, right? It seems so hard. So many challenges. And oftentimes we feel like we are put here, like we were dropped off against our will. That it's a school. It's actually a schoolyard full of tests and conditions that you have to meet in order to get to heaven and stay out of hell. Right? You've heard those stories. And you've heard these other stories that we're eternal beings, that we've always been, that you're made in the image and likeness of God. But what does that mean? And I just want to paint a story that comes to my mind when I think about the game of life and why we want to play it, or why we might want to play it. Not claiming to have any of the answers, but I think I've got a pretty good idea of how things work. If you could believe that your soul is eternal, that means this isn't your first time at this circus, is it? And if you could believe that it's not the first time, that means there were other times, which means that what you think is a lifespan, it doesn't tell the whole story, that there's more. And we kind of get a hint that this is true, right? Because we hear from people that seem credible that say when their loved one was dying, they were met with people that they knew. They were there in the room. Other people couldn't see it, but the person dying could see those people, and they were reaching out to them, and they were happy. And I think it happens so much that you have to consider that maybe there's something going on there that seems unlikely. And if you could believe, because so many people have these experiences, right? And you think, well, there's probably something to that. Well, if there's something to that, that means there's more to the nature of reality than we currently believe. We tend to hang on to the things that we can see because it gives us comfort, because the unknown doesn't comfort us at all. Look at how people think about heaven and hell, purgatory, and all these other concepts of what happens to your soul essence if you don't think a certain way, if you don't do certain things. If you were this eternal soul, which I think it's a lot of evidence there to suggest that you're older than you think you are. If you were eternal and you were living in heaven, let's say, and you were perfect, just like God is perfect, just like the universe is perfect, like Source is perfect. If you were perfect, you're in heaven, but all these other perfect people, God, all perfect, what would that be like? You just sit around and you're like, hey, Joe, you're so perfect. And Joe's like, Anthony, you're perfect too. Well, you're so perfect. No, you're perfect. No, but you're really perfect. You're so perfect. But you're perfect too. Hey, Sally over there is perfect. We're all perfect. Yeah. What should we do? There's nothing to do. We're perfect. We don't have to do anything. Huh. I see what you mean. It's kind of boring. It's boring being perfect. I think I want a pizza. We don't have pizza here in heaven because you don't need it. You don't. Your body doesn't need nourishment. You have an angelic body now. You don't need it. You're perfect. And pizza would upset your tummy. I miss pizza. I would like to have pizza. Yeah, but then that means that we got to go back down there. Oh, it was so hard. The last time we were there, it was so hard. I know, it was really hard. But, damn, that pizza tasted good, didn't it? Yeah, and that cheeseburger from Five Guys. Oh, that was so good. I really miss that too. I had a lot of fun building that business. It made me feel good about myself. It was interesting learning about myself and overcoming all the challenges that I had to overcome. There was a lot of meaning down there. Yeah, there was. But it was also painful. Remember that time you fell in love? Remember that time you fell in love, Anthony? With that person? And how you didn't stop crying for a year. Yes, I remember. You still want to go back down there? I don't know. I don't know. I see what you're saying. Hang on a second. Put that music back on. But I think you get the drift. If you were a perfect being, you're living in heaven, you're perfect, you're bored out of your mind. You need to create. You need to create your life. It brings meaning, but it also brings hardships. But those hardships give birth to what? More important meaning, deeper meaning. The pain gives birth to something amazing. And that's just a fact of life. So that's how I look at things. I see that we're eternal, we're perfect. And we got our best buddies up in heaven. And from time to time we get bored. And we're like, we gather all our friends and we say, let's go do it again. Let's do it again this time. But this time, I want to be the guy. You could be the girl. Let's make it so that, it's really tough to find each other. Or that we're hiding in plain sight. Let's make it exciting. Let's really throw some twists and turns in there and make it challenging. And y'all just sit around and we make up these plans, and then we go to the game maker, we go to God, and we're like, you know what? We're bored here, man. It's boring here. You guys are boring because you're so perfect. So we're going back down. We want to go back down. And God's like, yo, you remember now? You're not going to remember anything. We got to give you that amnesia. You're going to get that amnesia, that cup of amnesia. And all of this disappears for a while. You remember that. It's going to be scary. Sometimes. We're like, yeah, we're bored. We want to go back down there. We want to draw. We want to paint. I miss pizza. I miss my person. Okay. And so we make arrangements and we come back. And that's where the concept of soulmates enter. Twin flames. And all these different dynamics that exist that help you understand, and it explains the arrangement with regards to the cast of characters in your life. And this process of awakening helps you understand why things happened the way they did. It helps you to take responsibility for your actions, to go inside, to see yourself with honesty and truth, so that you can have more meaning in your life, so that you can have a better life. And when you come to the realization that through this process of awakening, that you've hurt yourself, you can heal from that and live a better life. In the process of hurting yourself, you hurt your friends, and then you can apologize to them and try to make amends so that you can have a better life. Or you might realize that the process of awakening, that you just want to do something totally different. Now you see the world differently, and you want to behave in it differently. Or maybe you had a mission, and now you got a side mission that's also pretty cool, like this one right here that I'm doing with you, sharing something that I can do alongside of the mission I'm already engaged with. This morning I woke up and I walked outside. I was kind of put off a little bit by the temperature and the humidity level, because it reminded me of New Jersey. But quickly my senses came alive with the smell of everything had been cleaned from the rain. We got a lot of rain last night. And you know how things smell in the desert when it rains. So beautiful. And all the clouds that were in the sky this morning, and everything just seemed so clean and crisp, It was beautiful, perfect. And so walking to the store here with my coffee, and I make my videos to talk to you guys. I just feel so blessed. I'm happier than I've ever been in my life. Which if you would have saw me or talked to me a year ago and said that I would be happier a year from now than any other point in your life, I would have said, I just wouldn't have believed it. But that is the freedom that awakening gives you. Of course, it doesn't erase disappointments. You'll have those for sure. And you wish that, the people you love the most were willing to see things differently. But in life, you're only responsible for yourself. And I think that once you realize that, real change can happen in your life. If we're not talking about raising a child, your number one priority is yourself. And even raising a child, I think you still have to put yourself first a lot. But you also are putting, your child's needs first, of course. But it's so important in your life to put you got to be right there. You have to be right there. And when you dim your light so that you can stand in the shade of somebody else, you're just setting the table for disaster. It's so important to live in authenticity. And when you arranged your life to come down here, you put all these roadblocks here. It's a challenge. It's a collaboration. You're co-creating with the game maker. It's a collaboration. You're working together to create a game that is actually tailor-made for you. And most likely, I believe that before we came down here, you got to pick the things and the people that would be in your life, that would bring meaning to your life. And even sadness, because the sadness, the trouble, the hiccups, all of those things offer new opportunities to see yourself and to see others for a greater experience, for a more full experience. Something to think about. You get bored in heaven. It's boring being perfect. So you come down here, hang out with your friends. Maybe to create the greatest love story the world has ever known. Love, you find it in a place you never dreamed it could be. Maybe you were friends with this person for the longest time, and it turned into a deeper kind of love. And then a storm hits and tears you apart and separates you. And through the separation, you find yourself, who you are really, where you're awesome and where you could use some more work. And then the universe monitors your progress and says, bravo, you have done well. Maybe things can come back together now in a way that brings peace, not just to your heart and your heart, but to the entire world. Just one of many possibilities. You could also get lost in blame, hate, anger, resentment, and the rest of the story you can guess where it goes from there. The choice is ours. I hope that I've done my job. I hope I did what I set out to do, which is to just paint a picture where the artist within you can reemerge, and you could look at your situation with clearer eyes, fresh perspective, and potential. We're all here co-creating together, working together. But what are we working for? If what I put forward was true and you came here with all your buds, your best buds, the person that you travel the universe with, that special person, the one you love so much. If you came here together, you came here to find each other, but we're all sequestered in our homes, doom scrolling on our smartphones and computers, separate and apart from each other. What's the point? We look at the world through our smartphones and we see all of this tumult and chaos, hostages, wars, all this instability, all this inequality. And we just sit there looking on our smartphone saying, what a shitty world. What a shitty place. I feel shitty. But what can I do? I'm just one person. I just tell you guys, it all starts with how you see yourself and how you see the world. And could I just offer one thing to do today? Is that every time you step through a doorway, the doorway of your house, the doorway of the place where you work, when you open that door, in your mind, see the world you want to see. Make a conscious effort to imagine it, to really see it, to feel it inside. And imagine the conversations you would have, if you could, with those special people in your life. It's so important to have a positive mindset. It's got to start somewhere. And at first, oftentimes it feels mechanical, but it gets better with practice, just like riding a bike. It's very mechanical. At first, you'll wobble and you might even fall, but soon you're popping wheelies. You're riding without holding the handlebars. And then you can turn without holding the handlebars. You're a pro. You've mastered bike riding. You can master your life too. But it's going to take some work. You might fall down a few times. But do you get back up and try again? Do you learn from your mistakes? Do you own up to your mistakes? Do you take accountability for the people that you've hurt, the things that you've done that come from a place that is a wound, a hurt, that had nothing to do with you, but everything to do with the way you were brought up and the conditions that you were left in. We don't hurt people because we're terrible people. We hurt people because we're wounded. But we have to, in order to heal, you have to know where the wound is. You need to understand the origin of the wound. And that might take the form of reading books, seeing a therapist, prayer, meditation. But it starts with a journey, a search, looking inward and being open to the way things really are, so that they can be something greater than you ever imagined later after you've healed. And the healing can take as little time as you want. It doesn't have to be a long process. It might. It really just depends on the energy that you put into it. If you're excited about the possibilities, you can sail right through. What I went through that took a year because I put everything into it. For someone else, that same journey that I took would take 3 years. It all depends on you, what you want, what you believe your limitations are, those perceived limitations. There comes a time in your life where you need to be at this crossroads and you say, you know what, self, if it's to be, it's up to me. Anyway, I love you guys. I hope we had a good discussion today. If you haven't taken the time to step outside and look at that beautiful sky, maybe you should do it. I'll see you. Bye.